Good afternoon, everyone. Please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat with your name, organization, and where you're joining from. I'm Marta Hernandez, Executive Director of Californians Together, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar, Strengthening California's UPK Workforce for Multilingual Children, Lessons and Recommendations from the Central Valley. A little about Californians Together. We are a coalition of organizations across the state dedicated to advancing the success of California's 1.1 million English learners. Today's webinar is part of that mission, lifting up research, strategies, and voices that ensure California's youngest learners are set up for success from the very beginning. We are excited to share our new report, Ensuring a Multilingual Ready Universal Pre-Kindergarten Workforce, developed with the English Learners Workforce Investment Initiative, EALWIN. So why is this report so important for English learner education? Because we know that if we don't prepare our workforce, we risk leaving behind the very children this expansion is meant to serve. California has 1.69 million multilingual learners under age 5. Their success depends on educators who are not only trained in child development, but who also know how to nurture language, identity, and literacy in more than one language. At its core, this report centers multilingual learners. It offers the roadmap we need for a workforce that reflects and supports California's rich linguistic diversity. It also reminds us that equity must start early because the workforce we prepare today will shape the opportunities and futures of our youngest multilingual children. The link to the publication is in the chat. Again, we are thrilled you've joined us. And whether you're an educator, a policymaker, or advocate, together we can build a UPK system that honors the assets our multilingual children bring and prepares them to thrive. And so I am now pleased to hand it over to Jim Sullivan, Central Valley Director of the English Learners Workforce Investment Initiative. Jim? I think you're on me.
Here at Elwyn, we know nearly 60% of California's youngest children grow up in multilingual homes, and that's a tremendous strength. But it also means we need teachers and child care providers who reflect and support the diversity from the very start. In the Central Valley, we're here to leaders from Fresno, Kern, Merced, Stanislaus, and Tulare County Office of Ed have stepped up to address the shortage of the 8,000 UPK staff that is needed in the Central Valley. By building strong partnerships with their local colleges, universities, and other community organizations. All of them are focusing on preparing and supporting the multilingual workforce. None of this would be possible without the Emerging Bilingual Collaborative. Their partnerships and support has been essential in this work, and we thank you, EBC, for all your support in our efforts to make this all happen. At this time, Manuel from California Together will be sharing highlights from our report.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Jim. And we're excited to share this new report that we were able to produce with the support of some of you that I see here in the webinar, and in close partnership with the English Learner Workforce Investment Initiative in the Central Valley. Something that I just want to share about the report is that we see this at Californians Together as an opportunity to not just share recommendations that were developed in close collaboration with our County Office of Education leaders in the Central Valley that are part of EOWIN, but also through the feedback of several other state leaders that were able to provide feedback. But it's also an opportunity to elevate the great work that our Central Valley school districts and counties have been doing. So for this report, we invite you to download it for free in the chat. If folks do want to get a physical copy, you can always go to our website and order a physical copy. But we really want to get this out to as many folks as possible. because we see this as a critical opportunity when we think about the universal pre-kindergarten workforce in California. When you look at the report, you'll be able to see different sections that I think can inform a lot of aspects of your work. Initially, you'll see a definition or a section that defines what is a multilingual ready workforce. What do we mean when we say those terms? And in short, we want to make sure that when we talk about multilingual ready workforce, it's making sure that we have staff that can support the home languages of our students, that can develop them in their journey towards being multilingual, but that also understand the cultural relevance and can connect to students and families. In the report, you also see a section about California and the Central Valley, providing you some background on the context that we have at both the state policy landscape and also what's happening in the Central Valley in their landscapes. There's also a section around preparation, recruitment, retention, and compensation that talks about what are the opportunities that we see in those areas and what are some examples of how this might be happening in Central Valley districts. And then the next section is something that I encourage you all to take a look at as well. Opportunities to build a multilingual ready workforce. This focuses on several key opportunities that we see in the Central Valley, but it's not just that we list and share those opportunities, but we have examples from counties in the Central Valley that highlight how those opportunities might be possible. And you'll be able to hear from two of those opportunities later today. But it also has opportunities from across the country that we might be able to learn from as well. And then lastly, we have state policy recommendations. These were again developed through partnerships and close conversations with our county Office of Education leads through EON and also other state leaders that were able to provide feedback on this. We hope that this gets disseminated. We hope that you use this in your work. And we also hope that you keep spreading this throughout your networks. And lastly, we really hope that this continues to support efforts that you are already undertaking to support having a stronger workforce in these grades. So why does this matter? For a lot of us, this is not new information. I think for a lot of us here, we live and we breathe this work. But I first want to tie this back to the goals and the vision that were established in the English Learner Roadmap policy in California. This work matters because it's closely aligned to what we need to do to make sure that we meet the vision and mission of the roadmap. As you remember, the roadmap calls upon all educators to embrace the responsibility for the education of English learners across several roles and levels in the system. And as we continue to expand our offerings to make sure that we have universal preschool, universal transitional kindergarten, and as we continue to align efforts for early childcare providers, we want to make sure that from early on, from birth all the way through preschool, and as we continue through TK and first kindergarten and first grade, we want to make sure that there's close alignment and close opportunities for educators to be prepared to guide students through their multilingual paths. The other reason that I want to elevate this is that being multilingual is not just about connecting to your home languages and cultures, but we know from research that it leads to better academic outcomes and better lifelong outcomes for our students. We see this as an opportunity in the California Master Plan for Early Learning and Care, which was published in 2020. It calls for better alignment across the system. It calls for bringing together programs for infants and toddlers. It calls for increasing access and eligibility across programs for services that are required for them. It calls for a universal preschool. And it calls for building competency-based licensure and workforce development across the system. As the progress continues to be underway for this master plan for early learning and care, we want to make sure that we seize on this opportunity to also ensure that as this gets continues to be expanded, that we continue to look at expanding it with a lens for our multilingual learners. This is also something that we know from our Central Valley counties. This is data that was collected for 2023-24 projected workforce needs. As we can expect, those workforce needs are likely still there in our system, and if not, they're expanding. We want to seize on this opportunity. We know that as we expand preschool, as we expand transitional kindergarten, and as we expand options for early childcare, we're going to need more staff in our systems. So our systems already understand that we need to increase recruitment, we need to increase retention, we need to increase compensation to make sure that we both have more educators in early care and in these early learning settings, but that they're also staying in the system and that we're supporting them. So as we have this increased demand that we see right now and in the future, we see it as both a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to also ensure that we are supporting our multilingual paraprofessionals, multilingual parents, multilingual families, multilingual community members to think about engaging and being part of this workforce. So focusing on the recommendations for action that you'll be able to see, to find in the report. The first recommendations that you'll see are really focused on collaboration. The first one is focused on state agency collaboration. What it really calls about is convening an interagency statewide early educator education work group. And it really builds on efforts that are already underway at the state level to ensure that we continue to have a focus across all those agencies on building a UPK workforce, on building a UPK workforce that meets the needs of our students. So that includes making sure that we build multilingual competencies for the workforce and making sure that state agencies are communicating with each other to ensure that efforts are aligned. The second recommendation is really brought about because of the work that we saw through our EON counties. Through the work of our EON counties, we saw that collaboration for them was critical, it was valuable, and it led to a lot of progress in several of their initiatives. So the second recommendation is about ensuring that the state can continue to support and incentivize local interagency collaboration that is focused on a multilingual prepared UPK workforce. So we know that this work happens, that local collaboration happens at the local level. It's happening at EOWIN and thanks to the work and collaboration of our Central Valley counties. But there's a role for the state to continue to support that and incentivize it and make sure that it's sustainable. The third recommendation in the report is around workforce preparation. And this is really focused on expanding and building the capacity of workforce preparation efforts in developing a multilingual UPK workforce. It calls on several things, including building up and expanding bilingual early childhood education community college certificates. It calls on supporting development and recruitment of bilingual college faculty and bilingual students that might be in our high schools into the profession. And you'll be able to hear a little bit about that later. It also talks about expanding current offerings and programs. So for example, teacher residency programs that might already be underway, making sure that we continue to both support these efforts that are already happening at the state level, but expand them and also find new opportunities to support them. Recommendation number 4 is about finding ways to recognize experience and skills that our prospective educators already have. So it calls for creating standards to recognize prior experience that might include multilingual experience that might relate closely to multilingual education or other credential requirements where experience might be able to show that a candidate might already have some qualifications. This is really important as we think about early childcare providers that might be thinking about getting the new PK through third grade early childhood education credential. How do we make sure that we facilitate that process and recognize the work that they were doing before so that they can so they have an easier path to getting that credential and hopefully have less debt burden in getting that credential. And then the last two recommendations are really about conditions that we think are crucial to sustain the system. Um, the recommendation number 5 is about funding and wage stabilization. This is really about making sure that we pay our workforce well. How do we make sure that we create a system where there is stable funding to maintain those competitive salaries so that our educators are well compensated and are able to stay in the system and prosper in the system. And then the last condition that we have in the last recommendation is about making sure that we continue to ask the state for better workforce and enrollment data. We know that we have a high need in our Central Valley. You know the need that you have in your own counties and school districts, but we want to make sure that we do a better job of collecting that information of educator shortages across the state so that we can have a better so that we better understand the urgency that we have at the state level and at the regional level, and we can use that hopefully to support the other efforts that we have and support targeted initiatives across our counties. So again, you can read about these recommendations more in the report. We hope that as you look at the recommendations, that you use these as opportunities to have study groups in your districts or counties, or have deep conversations about what else might be possible in your counties and districts. And they really are designed to be conversation starters and to help alignment between the work of your county offices of education, school districts, and school level site leadership. So thank you again. Please take a look at the report and continue to share it throughout your networks. And with that, I'm going to hand the mic back over to Jim. He's going to introduce us to two of our county leaders that are going to be able to share some work that they're doing.
So throughout, as Manuel said, throughout the whole report, we highlight many examples of how collaboration has provided opportunities to address the multilingual workforce shortage. Today, we're spotlighting examples from Merced and Kern County Office of Ed. Our first presenter is from Merced County. Her name is Dr. Vanessa Meninger. She is the Program Manager for Governance and Community Support. She'll be sharing how Merced has addressed the challenges by offering classes during non-traditional hours. Dr. Meninger?
Hi, thank you so much, Jim. Yes, if I could have my next slide, sorry. Oh, there we go. I see it now. So yes, my name is Vanessa Meninger. I am the Program Governance and Community Supports Manager for Merced County Office of Ed, and I am our Elwyn lead for Merced County. And today I just want to talk about how one of our programs that we did has really helped increase our workforce here in Merced County. So we saw that we had a lot of parents in our Head Start program that were volunteering during the day, and they were very engaged. And we wanted to know what was preventing them from joining the workforce. And a lot of them, it was their education. They had either started families early, or they weren't sure they would be able to go back to school. Hours didn't really work for them. And so we partnered with UC Merced Extension Office, and we asked parents if we offered these courses to you on a Zoom format in the evenings for 16 weeks. You can get 12 units of early childhood credits and be able to then work in a classroom. Would you be interested? And we had over 120 parents that wanted to take these courses. So we then opened it up. We ended up with 40 in English and 30 in Spanish. We offered them in the evenings, again, 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. They completed 2 classes at a time for those 16 weeks. So 8 weeks for the first 2 classes and then 8 weeks for the second 2 classes. We had, I believe, 39 of the 40 in English completed all 12 units with a C or better. And I believe we had 20 to 25 for our Spanish cohort that completed all of the units. From there, we then had an internship opportunity. Whether you're aware or not, to work in an early childhood classroom, especially at the Head Start level, you need to have 50 days of experience. But you can't work in the classroom unless you have the experience. So you can see the problem that this creates. So what we did is we created a paid internship using funds that we partnered with WorkNet to do classroom placement in our classrooms for Head Start. So we were helping with our own issues of being short-staffed. And then we also were able to get these people their 50 days of experience. We had 19 people graduate with that first cohort. They have now been able to go on and get, some of them came back and they work for MCOE. They have a couple that worked for Triple CDS, some that went into the public school district. So most of them, I think we've only got 3 at this point that are still applying for jobs. And we have a couple that said, you know what, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get my AA or I'm going to get my BA. So they've decided that they're going to go ahead and increase their education level before they join the workforce permanently. It was a great experience for so many of our um, parents. And then we also had some community members and we had some family childcare providers as well that took these 12 units, whether in English or Spanish. One of those classes that's required is on diversity, and we do a whole section on the importance of multilingual learners, how to work with them. So really making sure that they understand that it is an asset to be a multilingual learner, multilingual speaker. This morning, myself and my colleague went to LCAP High School here in Merced, and we got to speak with a capstone course for careers in education. And my very first question was, how many of you are multilingual? And almost half of the 21 students raised their hands. And then my next question was, how many of you know that that's an asset? And most of them kept their hands up. And so we just really encourage them to keep that second language or third language and encourage that. And we talked about how that makes them more employable, that opens up so many other positions for them within the education field when you have that second or third or more languages. And that when we encourage that in the classroom, that we are broadening our children's horizons, that we are connecting better with parents when they hear things in their own language. A lot of those barriers automatically go down because they feel this is a safe place for me. So we are excited to continue this internship. We're looking for additional funding streams to help keep this going. The one that we were using will be expended here in the next year. But we've seen such a success with it that we just can't let it go. So I'm open to any questions people might have about that. I know we have a question and answer section. And then Jim, I think you might field some as well.
Yes, I just wanted, yes, thank you, Dr. Manager, for all the work you've done in sharing this opportunity, sharing all the work, all the opportunities that your families have had. I do want to remind everybody that during our presentation, if you have questions, please ask in the Q&A function on Zoom. And like Dr. Manager said, we can answer those questions at any time, if time permits. I also wanted to highlight a couple more opportunities that are in the book, in our report about UC Merced. They offer child development dual enrollment classes with partnerships with their local high schools, as well as Stanislaus County Office of Ed. They have a parent to teacher program. So all of those are also highlighted in there. As we move forward, I'd like to introduce from Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Amy Mosier. She is the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Contents Coordinator, and she'll be sharing how they address the multilingual staff shortage through collaboration and partnership.
Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Jim. As he said, I am the UPK coordinator for the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. One of the responsibilities that I have is to support the Early Educator Teacher Development Grant. And with that, we decided to build out some cohorts of different groups that may not necessarily have these opportunities offered to them. And when I took this position and Elwyn came along, it was a great marriage of two different funding streams that would work together towards the same goal. So I'm going to share a little bit about what we're doing in Kern County around early educator cohorts. So really for our cohort models, these are kind of our guiding principles. Our first one, and this is where Elwyn really comes in to play, is breaking down silos. And we really wanted to be able to offer opportunities, as I said, to those who don't typically have that work offered to them, cross different county agencies, cross over our own county office programs throughout our community, throughout our region. So we've really tried to partner out in different areas. One of our big goals is using our early childhood education pathway as a model to move across the pathway. So those of you know, when you're looking for TK teachers, sometimes the best TK teachers are your California State preschool teachers or maybe your Head Start teachers, but we absolutely cannot poach them from those programs because then they wouldn't want to work with us on other things. So we had to think about how do we fill and backfill these positions and bring in new people, starting with maybe the assistant teacher, and work their way through so that there is a backfill across that pathway of new teachers coming in, and maybe our other teachers in California State Preschool and Head Start moving forward and perhaps taking on TK. Other is to leverage our multiple funding resources. So right now we are looking at the Early Educator Teacher Development Grant, the K-16 grant, and the Elwyn grant, along with some districts that are using the Classified Employees Grant to merge and braid all of those funding streams together to offer the cohorts that we do. Just as Vanessa said, we are lifting the assets and addressing the needs of those multilingual candidates. That is one of the she said it so well. One of the things that we talked to them about is that your being multilingual is an absolute asset, whether you've been certified in a language or you've gotten the seal of bilingual seal of literacy, that this is an asset as you go out into the field. And it's something to put on your resume. And we provide supports, fiscal, workforce readiness, employment opportunities, and a warm handoff to our school site leaders. And you'll see a little bit about that as we go through the cohorts. Here's our pathway that we developed. So this is kind of just our model for looking through the pathway and how we plug people into the different areas and what they can do with the units that they receive. We have a really strong emphasis on the very first one, just starting with that assistant teacher permit, getting people interested and excited about early learning. So one of our cohorts is in partnership with our county office foster youth program called the Dream Center. So we have targeted our emancipated foster youth and have them participate in obtaining 6 units of early childhood education and earning their assistant teacher cohort, our assistant teacher permit. This group, we've had 11 participants. So I want to say 11 participants who successfully are moving through the different units. We've had others, but this group is one that is very needy of support. And sometimes they have things that go on in their personal lives that can't allow them to finish the program, but we're giving them opportunities. And so we have one who has gotten all of the units needed for their associate teacher permit. So she went ahead and kind of jumped ahead and was like, I really want to do this. So right now we're working with her on placement and getting her hours so that she can get her associate teacher permit, which is very exciting. And so she really wants to be able to quit her current job at Starbucks so she can get into the education field, which is so excited. And with this group, just any of that accomplishment is just for them more motivation to move on. Within this pathway, we also offer them financial incentive along the way for completing coursework with a passing grade of a C or higher, and with coming to professional development, attending different workshops, and obtaining their permit. And those of you who work in early childhood or with early childhood know that this is not field where they're going to make a lot of money. So that financial incentive is hugely important to helping them along the way. And we also pay their tuition and book costs, parking, anything they might need. So there's no barriers for them to complete this coursework. So they're a small but mighty cohort. I think you'll see that all of them are kind of small but mighty right now. But just like Vanessa said, we don't want to let these go. So as funding continues, we want to continue these because they're such important groups to support. So that's our foster youth group. The other group that we're working with is our county office migrant program parents. So we have 22 parents from the migrant program who are participating in getting their assistant teacher permit with taking 12 units of early childhood in Spanish. So they started with 6 and now they're in the next 6 units because they were successful in that first 6 and said, we want to go forward. So this group takes coursework in the evenings over Zoom with an instructor who conducts all the coursework in Spanish, which is so great for them. One of our challenges here, and Vanessa and I have to get an email out to you, Vanessa, to talk about this, is supporting this group in particular beyond the Spanish, because we want them to have opportunity after they finish these units. And if their English is not strong, they may not have the opportunity to be hired as readily as other candidates. And we want them to be as competitive as others who are entering the field. So we're trying to figure out a way to support that work so that we can help them strengthen those English skills so that they can go on and get maybe even their associate degree or their bachelor's degree or their teacher credential, whatever they want to do from there. We want to help them move past some of the challenges in the higher ed system with finding coursework that's not in English and being successful in that. So right now there's 22 participants in that. And in the spring, we'll be launching the same opportunity for our California State preschool program parents who speak Spanish as well. This has been kind of an exciting, we're really excited to see where this group goes. And they want more units in Spanish in early childhood as we move forward. So that has been their request, is to, can we have more coursework in Spanish? This other is our transitional kindergarten and kindergarten classroom aides and assistants. So those who are in the classroom already working with young children and may be interested in getting units, we're working through the 6 units again on that assistant teacher cohort pathway for them to get their assistant teacher permit. 16 participants in that course now. So we're hoping each semester we enroll more and more and more. That's the goal, is to build all of the cohorts in numbers as we go through. Our one that's going for their teacher permit, this is the partnership with one of our high school districts and their child development ROC program. So these students already graduate with 12 units or 9 units in early childhood education. So we take them at that point and help them with their next steps in either enrolling at university or community college and assisting them in getting their permits for their teacher permit. So these are students who will be taking gen ed units and early childhood units. Again, the Elwyn link through all of this is pushing forward that idea that their being multilingual is an asset and celebrating that throughout. So we often give them opportunity to attend professional development in English and Spanish for some of them, so that they can see what professional development looks like outside as an educator. So they get to participate alongside of preschool teachers and TK teachers in what that looks like. So this group, 14 participants now, 2 are almost finished. They are at the end of this semester, they will have their full teacher permit. So that's very exciting. They're excited to get into a classroom and actually be the teacher of record in a classroom for preschool. So very exciting for that group. And our last and our newest cohort, we have a program we're calling Experience ECE. We're partnered with one high school and we're taking them out and visiting a TK classroom, and then interested students will enroll in concurrent coursework because most of the high schools that we're targeting with this program do not have an education pathway already built in. So in the absence of the education pathway, we are asking that they will enroll concurrently. They receive scholarship funds for completing the coursework, and we're building in the incentive given for those who are obtaining their the bilingual seal of literacy when they graduate. There's an incentive, a financial incentive for that piece. So weaving that into the high school piece. And I think that's it. That's Kern.
So thank you very much, Amy, for all of for sharing all of the work you've been doing. We have a question. Oh, it just went away. Can either you or Dr. Manager address the question of if parents or students drop out of the coursework, what is your process?
So I had answered that. That's why it went away. I answered it right before. We only had a handful of people drop, and because of how we had structured it, as long as we had 15 students, it didn't matter how many more we had. It cost us the same amount to provide the class. So we didn't do anything for if they dropped, whether they had to pay anything back. We also provided computers because we found that that was going to be a major barrier for a lot of these families. Some of them started out using their child's Chromebook that they got from school, and then they soon found out, nope, this isn't good. So we gave out about 40 computers as well. And for that, we did have them sign something saying if you don't complete the classes, then those are returned to us. But if they completed the classes, it was kind of a perk for them that now you have a computer as well.
Same as Vanessa. As long as we had a class size, it was fine. The only one that we really try to work with is our foster youth and our ROC students. If they happen to not pass the course, we do give them another shot because they need that extra support and something may have happened. So we try to keep in touch with them and really support them and make it as successful as we possibly can for them by giving them opportunity.
Okay, and we have one other question. Are they being supported to attain their bilingual authorization? And I'm wondering if that's regarding for a credential.
So Merced College is just now in the process of getting a bilingual authorization for the AA. So if they're interested in that, it's definitely something that we are promoting. And as soon as they have that ready to go, we'll be promoting that to our students as well.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? So again, thank you, Dr. Manager and Amy, for all your time in sharing this work. I know it takes a lot of extra time to make the presentation for us, and we appreciate it very much. I'd also like to highlight again some of the other additional work that's highlighted in the report. UC Merced, along with Elwyn, is creating a recruitment site that is going to really help hopefully navigate some of the barriers as we move forward. And also, like Fresno County office has developed the Early Education Administrators Academy to help everyone understand the role and what preschool is. So since there's no other questions, I'd like to hand it over to Sheila Neen, who will close out our webinar.
Thank you, Jim. And of course, thank you, Amy and Vanessa, for presenting the amazing work you're doing in each of your counties. Really excited to be able to showcase the work that you're doing as well as your partners in the other counties in across the Central Valley. And as we wrap up, I just want to just circle back to sort of the intentions behind this work that's happened across these counties in the Central Valley, the intentions behind the work that Californians Together has done with our partners in each of these county offices. It's not easy to build the teacher pipeline and an early childhood teacher pipeline. You know, we have the pressures of affordability, right, of recruitment, of sustainability of programs, and we saw that in some of the questions being asked. But I think what these counties in the Central Valley, Kern, Fresno, Stanislaus, Tulare, Merced County, what they're proving is that it can be done, right? And I think part of the rationale behind supporting the work in the Central Valley, and using this to drive sort of listening very closely to how programs worked, and then the development of some maybe policy areas to focus on at the state level, is because often we drive policy from the big urban areas. It's just the reality because of the way things work in the state, right? And so very intentionally, we want to make sure that the policies that California focuses on and puts in place meets the needs of every single region of our state. And the Central Valley is so unique, right, in that you see a variability of rural and urban districts, small and big, over multiple county offices, all trying to figure out the same things, right? And so I think this approach has really shown the value of the intentional collaboration, both within a county office focused on developing this multilingual teacher pipeline in the early childhood space, as well as across counties. So we're really excited about this work. We're really excited to engage all of you on this in this webinar and beyond, around thinking about how can we use this work that we see be so successful in the Central Valley and scale it across the state, right? And scale it into our systems so that it's not only replicable. I know many of you are all doing similar work as well in other parts of the state, but that it's all systematized as well, so that we know that moving forward, we are building the teacher pipeline that we need at all stages, whether it's early childhood, the TK kinder, with the P3 credential, up into the K-12 system. So super excited about this work. As I wrap up, let's move to the next slide. Just as a reminder, the report that we're have released is available here. If you'd like to download it, you can download it with this QR code, and it will be shared later after the meeting after this webinar with as well as the slides and other materials. But just reminding that it's there, and there's lots of really great information about not only the case studies that Jim mentioned, but a couple others. Next slide, please. Oh, I forgot. I'm controlling the slides. And more importantly, we talked about application to policy, and we really want to work together. And so we would love to have your feedback in terms of the policy priorities that sort of developed out of the work in the Central Valley with Elwyn, as we think about what are we really going to focus on, and what direction are we going to work together collaboratively to maybe try to push the state to improve our overall system. And so please take the time right now to either take a picture of this QR code or the short link, and go and complete this survey, and select one or two state policy recommendations that you feel should be a priority. We encourage you, if you want to continue being engaged in this conversation, to please share your contact information so that we can continue, so that we can engage you in the conversations as they continue. So we will move to the next slide now. And then, of course, as Californians Together, we do much more work than just this work. We do a lot of, our coalition does work across the state in multiple policy areas focused on improving outcomes for multilingual learners. So we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. We with all of the action happening at the federal level that I'm sure all of you are monitoring, we now have a weekly policy poll, federal policy pulse that comes out every week. And so we encourage you to sign up for that, just to get updates on what's happening with the changes that are happening at the federal level. Think about the thing that just happened, what happened over the summer with Head Start and shifting Head Start from Department of Education to Health and Human Services, right? A lot of movements happening at the federal level have a direct impact on the ability for us to do our work. So please follow us on our information. And then, of course, thank you for joining us. This again is the link for the survey. Please don't forget to take it. It's we really want to make sure that we are reflecting the needs of the field as we think about the priorities that we are going to be working on. So thank you very much for participating in this webinar.